we're going to look at some specific synthetic division problems that have kind of corner case scenarios where there isn't a straightforward path to doing the division. We have to do a little bit of tweaking. So the first example we're going to look at here is a good old polynomial that looks like we would expect it to look like, but our divisor has a 2 as the coefficient for the x term. So we're going to go through like we would normally go about our way to solve this using synthetic division, and when we come up to a problem, we'll look at it then. So, step 1, take all the numbers from your polynomial and write them down. 2, 9, 14, 5, and our synthetic division bar looks like this. There's step 1. Step 2, take the divisor, set it equal to 0, solve for x. Subtract 1 from both sides, we get 2x equals negative 1, and we'll divide by 2, giving us x equals negative 1/2. So this is where we come up with something that's interesting. Anytime our divisor has a coefficient for the x term, you're going to end up with a fraction for your multiplier. On some level, that's no problem. We're just going to be multiplying with fractions instead of whole numbers, but it's something to note, and there's an additional step at the very end of synthetic division. So, negative 1/2 is our multiplier. I'm going to put it up in our box over here. We did step 1, we put our numbers in our synthetic division bar here. We did step 2, we took our divisor, solved equal to x, and solved it, and that's our multiplier. So now we're going to go about the same way we would normally do the process for step 3. We bring the first 2 down. We multiply it by our multiplier. So in these scenarios, we're multiplying by a fraction. So do your fraction math. Negative 1/2 times 2 is negative 1. Add down, 9 plus negative 1 is 8. Keep going, multiply. Negative 1/2 times 8, negative 4. Add down, 10. Multiply across, negative 1/2 times 10, negative 5. And add down. Notice we still got a remainder of 0. That was great. So the fraction math it works out fairly well, actually. Multiplying through gave us all even numbers down here so that we could multiply and accommodate the addition. It all worked out really well. Again, the only scenario here that was a little different was that we're multiplying by a fraction. But remember, I said there's one more step, and here's the step. Once we've completed this, before we get to that last step 4 where we put in our x's, we need to divide each of these existing values by the coefficient of the x term of our divisor. So it's very straightforward, but you can't forget to do it, otherwise you have an incorrect answer. Synthetic division all the way through, we come up with these 3 numbers, and now we divide each of these by this number here. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Now we can put in our x's. We started with an x cubed, so now we're going to get x squared. This is positive. Now we go 1 down and we get our x, and we add a 5. Here's the solution. Again, whenever there's a coefficient here, you're going to end up with a fraction as your multiplier, which means you need to do fraction math when you multiply through from the bottom to the top. And at the end, before you put in your x's, divide each of these terms by the coefficient of your divisor.